I've always thought Canadians had some common sense to. I don't think that's still true, because some of the things that are going on. There's good news and bad news coming out of Canada. Ezra Levant is with us now. He's a Rebel News founder. It's kind of like the Blaze up in Canada. He is the host of the Ezra Levant Show, and he's here to tell us the happenings this weekend. Let's start with the big standing ovation that was given to a Canadian Nazi. Ezra.
Glenn, it's absolutely crazy. Yaroslavovi Hunkovi is the name of a former Nazi SS officer. So I'm not just talking about some regular GI in the Wehrmacht who was conscripted and just fought in a tank. I'm talking about someone who volunteered to be part of Hitler's elite Nazis in Ukraine. Now, he's 98 years old, and he's been living a very low-profile life in Canada. So unlike some other Nazis, he hasn't been hunted down by the Mossad. Imagine how surprised he must have been to receive a phone call that he would be the honored guest in Parliament when Justin Trudeau welcomed Vladimir Zelensky on Friday. And he was just like in your American State of the Union address, where they point the camera at someone in the audience and they give him a shout out and everyone gives him applause. They literally did that for Yaroslavovi Hunkovi, a 98-year-old Nazi SS officer. But they didn't introduce him that way, Glenn. They said he, quote, fought the Russians.
Well, the Nazis did that. Hitler did that.
That's right. Amongst other things, they also fought the Poles. They also fought the Jews. And this guy, Hunka, couldn't believe it. He's been hiding in Canada for 70 years. And then in the twilight of his life, he's cheered and he raises his fist and he gets a standing O. But later on, and I did a little bit of digging here, I thought, well, who is this guy? And he was one of 2,000 Nazis that sort of sneaked into Canada after the war. They went to Argentina and other Latin American countries, and 2,000 of them came to Canada. And don't tell me they didn't know. Don't tell me you don't have a guest of honor at our version of a State of the Union address where the entire parliament is assembled. Don't tell me when Vladimir Zelensky comes, they have a very high security, vetting everybody rule. Don't tell me they didn't know who this guy was. They absolutely knew who he was, Glenn.
Here is the interesting thing to me. They cheer in Parliament an actual SS Nazi, and yet they accuse, half of Canada, anybody who stood behind the truckers, they accuse them of Nazis and threaten to put them all in jail.
Well, that's a good way to understand Justin Trudeau. He calls himself a male feminist, but he admits that he sexually assaulted a woman named Rose Knight. He just said, she experienced it differently. He calls you a racist, but he's the guy who dressed up in blackface so many times he says he lost count. He calls everyone he doesn't like a Nazi, including Jewish people. He called a Jewish MP a Nazi. He called a black MP a Nazi. But he's the one leading the standing ovation for an actual Nazi, not Nazi-linked or Nazi vibes. This guy was out there with his gun obeying their Fuhrer. And it's just incredible. And the kind of mop-up work that the media party is doing, Glenn, is just incredible.
The Speaker of the House took the fall, and the Prime Minister continues to blame everyone else. A full-blown international embarrassment for our country, for our allies, and for everything this nation did to defeat the Nazis. An actual Nazi invited to the House of Commons, welcomed, and celebrated as a hero. And a government that vetted everyone here. Shame. The PM has called Canadian citizens Nazis. Will he muster the courage and stand up on his feet today and take responsibility?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, I think we all feel the deep embarrassment and shame of what happened on Friday. Had anyone in this House known what the Speaker was going to do ahead of time and who this person was, I am certain that not a single person would have stood in this House of Commons. But the fact of the matter is, and my Conservative colleagues know this, that neither the Prime Minister nor the government nor the Ukrainian delegation or any parliamentarian in this place knew ahead of time. It was the Speaker's decision. He's taken responsibility and he has resigned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Thornhill.
The minister who is now whispering was louder when she also painted Canadians as Nazis, and she can't bring herself to apologize for an actual Nazi this government vetted. Worse even, she tried to strike it from the historical record of this House as if it never happened. A descendant of Holocaust survivors distorting the Holocaust. You should be ashamed of yourself. I don't know how many...
Just a reminder for all questions and comments to be through the chair. The honourable member for Thornhill, you have about 5 seconds left there.
How many times I'm going to have to ask this Prime Minister for an apology that he has slandered, dishonored, and embarrassed Holocaust survivors, but I think 2 times is too many.
Yeah. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, while the member opposite tries to personally attack me, I will actually stay focused on the facts. The fact of the matter is, and she knows this as well as every other member in this House, is that it was the Speaker who decided to invite this individual. It was the Speaker who acknowledged that he was going to acknowledge him in the chamber. No one in this chamber knew ahead of time of who he was. The Speaker has taken full responsibility for this. He has resigned. It was the right thing to do. It was the honorable thing to do. And it is something that had to be done.